Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev. And in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking that API we built with Django REST framework in the intro video and create a React app with it. So right now I have it running. So right now this is running on port 8000. So what I'm going to do is open up another terminal. Okay, so that's going to open up in our Django 2022 folder, and I'm going to create a new React app. So npx create React app. And we're just going to say to do front end. Okay. npx create React app to do front end. Good. Oh, that's right. For some reason, I must have some old version of create React app cached and always complains. Even when I try to uninstall globally, it complains. So I always have to do this at latest flag for me. Okay, so then it's going to make the app. So that's going to take a second to make the app. But what we're going to do is we're going to install React Router, and we're going to take advantage of React Router's data APIs to make building this front end quite easy. Okay, so this is going to be much more of a JavaScript than a Python video. But just to show you, like, again, it doesn't really matter what I built the API with, as long as I have an API that follows RESTful conventions. Generally building the React app, the Vue app, the Svelte app, the whatever app is going to be pretty much exactly the same. Okay, it doesn't really matter what I use to do the front end. I'm essentially following the same patterns. Okay, again, how you get there will be a little bit different from framework to framework or without a framework at all, but what you're doing isn't any different. Making a request, getting all the data, then rendering the data to the screen, having a form, you submit the form, it makes the post request to create a thing. I have a form, you submit the form, it'll make the put request to update a thing. You know, we'll have a button, a form button that'll create a delete request that will delete the thing. You know, we're doing all that. Okay, good. That's all set and ready to go. So let's cd into to do front end. Now again, I want to install React Router, so install React Router DOM. So we're going to install that. Wonderful. And that's all fun and good. Okay, so now once we do that, what we're going to want to do is actually let's just start the server, so that way we can kind of see it evolve. So that's going to be running on port 3000. Okay, so there's going to be our React app. So we'll put that off to the side so we can kind of watch it as it progresses. And now we just want to do some setup before anything else. Okay, so I'm going to open up to do front end. And since I'm using React Router, there's a couple files I wanted to create first. I'm going to create a folder called router. Okay, and then I'm going to create 3 files in there. New file called routes.js. A new file, and again, the naming convention here can change depending on, and how I organize these files can change depending on how you prefer to organize this. This isn't a thing that's like set in stone. This is just the way I like to do it. Actions.js, loaders.js. Okay, and again, the idea here is that when we're using React Router, the newest version of 6.4 or above, we can now use loaders and actions. So our routes can have loaders, which are functions that run before a route renders to the screen, so I can pre-fetch data. And then we can also have actions, which are used when we submit a form to a particular route. So that way we can, make API requests to submit form data. Okay. So again, whenever we submit a form, we're going to want to use an action. And whenever we want to load data before a component loads to show one or many to-dos, we're going to want to use a loader. Okay, and then each individual piece of each section of our UI will get a route. Okay, so first thing we want to do is define our router. So we're going to import a couple things from React Router. So we're going to import create browser router and create routes from elements. And that's going to be from React Router DOM. Okay, so again, this is what creates the actual like router object that'll be used to, wire the routes. And then we're going to define our routes using JSX, so we need to create routes from elements. And then actually on that note, I'm also going to want the route element for doing that. So next, I'm going to create the router, const router, equals create browser router, and then we're going to pass to create browser router the result of create routes from elements, and then inside create routes from elements we're going to have a fragment, and then inside there we can define all of our routes. Okay, so right now we're just going to have our initial route, which will be a route that covers the main root path of slash, and the element it renders is just going to be the app component that's already built into the default React app. So I just want to import that. So import app from dot slash app. Okay, and what does it not like? Go ahead and close the route. Okay, actually I don't want to close it like that. There we go. I do want to put children in there. Okay, and then last thing we need to do is export the router. Export default router, not uppercase router, lowercase router. Cool. Okay, and so basically our structure here for defining routes is now set up, and now I just need to connect that in index.js. So here what I'm going to do is I want to import the router provider from React Router DOM, and I'm going to import the router that we just created. Okay, and then we're going to replace this instance of app with router provider. Router provider needs a router prop saying, hey, where are the routes that I'm providing? And we're going to say, hey, you're providing the routes from the router that we defined. And there we go. And now we're all set. Router is basically what's now in control of our app. Okay, so what shows up on the screen is going to be heavily based on the way we design our routes going forward. Okay, which is a much nicer abstraction than router used to be, and just writing plain old JavaScript. I mean plain old React code, and having to do everything via like state updates and conditional rendering and all this stuff. We can save ourselves a lot of trouble. Okay, so now what I can do is I can predefine all the routes we plan on having. Okay, so we're gonna have generally 5 routes to complete our basic CRUD functionality. Okay, we're gonna have a route that just basically covers the default page, so we don't have to put any path there. Okay, we're not going to define an element quite yet. Okay, we're just going to define these routes for now. Oops. Copy that. Okay, the second route is going to be for like our show route that shows a particular item based on the ID of the item. Then we're going to have a create route for when we submit a form to create a thing. We're going to have a slash update slash ID when you want to update a particular thing. And then we're going to have a slash delete slash ID when you want to delete a thing. Okay, so those are going to be our 5 routes. Only 2 of them actually are UI. So only these 2 actually show anything on the screen. These are all going to be used for form submission. So these will have actions. These 2 will have loaders. Okay, so when you submit when you load up these ones, they'll load data. When you click submit a form, these will trigger an action. Okay, so that's going to go back to our whole actions and loaders detail. Okay, I very much like this pattern. Okay, it makes writing a React app 10 times easier than it used to be. Okay, especially when I think back to like React Router 5 days, where you have to do like this like render props or router props, and you pass on these router props that take advantage of params. Much simpler. Okay, cool. So let's focus on creating these pages. So new file, not new file, a new folder. We'll call this pages. Represent our different page routes. And we're going to have 2 page routes. Index, which is going to be our main page. So index.js. And new file, show.js. Okay. And let's just start off with index.js. Now, index.js is going to show us all of, actually just create the function index, and then we're just going to return h1 index. Okay. Now a couple things we need to do. So notice app is still just showing the way it's been showing. I need to edit app. because app needs to show all those child routes. So here in this div, what we're going to do is we're going to eject a component from React Router called outlet. Okay, and that outlet component is going to show any output from child routes. Okay, so any nested routes will show up there. Okay, so right now we don't see anything because I still need to defend what's rendered when. So export default index, and then I'm gonna head over to my router. Go take a look at my routes, and then this root path, I'm going to say element equals index. So when this subroute is showing up, I should be able to see the index component right there. It doesn't like it right now because I got to import it. Import index. And there we go. So you see, like, there's the index component. That's what's showing up on the page. Eventually, we want this to kind of display all those to-dos. So which right now, there's just like one, I think we left when we were testing out the API. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a loader function that's going to go get that data. Okay. So in the loaders, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another file called base URL just to make it simpler. So we'll call it base url.js. So I only have to define this once. And we're going to export default, and then we just put the base URL, which is http localhost 8000 slash, and I think all of our routes will involve to do. So I'll do slash there. And this is just going to reduce, since I don't have to worry about, if I had multiple base URLs, I might just define multiple base URLs here, but literally all the routes, all the requests we're going to need to make is going to be to this base URL. And again, I'm making sure this way I make sure that I have that trailing slash for the first couple. Okay, so that's going to make our life a little easier. Okay, so now I can go to loaders and I can just import the base URL, or I can just say import URL from /base URL. Okay, and then that URL will just be our URL, and that just saves me a little typing, having to type that URL over and over and over again for each of these loaders. So all my loaders I'll define in this file. I'll define all the actions in the actions.js file. So that way it's just organized. So we're going to export a function called index loader. Why am I calling it index loader? Because it's for the index route. And that just makes it easier to understand what its role is. It's the loader for that index component, which is for that index route. Okay, I just prefer a, and then again, this should be an async function. And am I going to want anything from here? I don't think I need anything from the arguments, so I can just leave that blank. And essentially, all I really want to do here is make an API call for all the to-dos. So it's going to just be basically const response equals await fetch URL, because that's the base URL. Const to-dos equals await response.json. And then we return the to-dos, and that's it. That's the role of that function. It's just going to go fetch the to-dos. Then I'm going to head back to my routes. Import index loader. And I'm going to say, hey, whenever the index route loads up, I want to use this loader. And that loader is the index loader. Okay, so now I know whenever that route loads up, it's going to run to this. It failed to fetch. So let me go back to my loader, see what I typed in wrong. Maybe it's my base URL. Okay, localhost 3000. So it failed to fetch. So let me actually open up DevTools. Let's examine the failed request. So let's head open the network tab. Okay, I'm gonna refresh the page so we can see the failed request. Yep, see there's the failed request. Oh, and looks like we got a CORS error. Remember I mentioned this is why we set up that CORS stuff, but looks like it didn't fully take. So let me see here. If I go to, let's move this a little bit over. Okay, 101 switching protocols. Well, I'm gonna look here. Like, take a look at the response, headers. I mean, it made a successful request to do headers, localhost 8000 headers. yet it still didn't get the right data back. Request headers, response headers. Says it was denied. Okay, and let me just see here. Is that the right URL used? I used, yeah. So I'm assuming it's a CORS problem. So that's going to make me want to go over here and maybe restart the server because we did set that CORS stuff up. So let's try that again. I just need to restart the server. No. As I can see here, it says, like if I expand this, if I do that, you can see status is CORS. Okay, so that's telling me there's an issue with the CORS settings. So let me go back to that Django app. And let's open up the to-do app settings. And I probably missed the step. So let's go back to the Django CORS documentation. If we did that, installed app. Oh, you might get a module not found there. Oh, I thought I did add CORS. But look, if I'm looking at it, I think I'm looking at the wrong to-do app. To-do API is what I want to look at. Settings. If I take a look at installed apps, there's CORS headers, but it does say, hey, make sure you put a trailing comma. So that might be the issue. Okay. And this also said here the CORS middleware, which we did. That looks about right. And then we have CORS allowed origins. We do have CORS allow all origins down here. Oh, but that should be equals. That's why. There we go. Okay. That should be equals true. Good. Okay, and yeah, so now it should work. So let me go back to the React app. Let's refresh. And yeah, now it works. Okay, so now see the request is coming in. And let's just take a look at the response. See, I'm getting the data. The data is there. Okay, perfect. So let's close that up for now. And let's close up this. Let's go back to the front end code. And let's go back to the source, back to our pages, because now we know we're getting the data. So now that the loader is running and getting the data, to use the loader data, I gotta import use loader data. And now I can go grab that loader data by just doing this, like const to-dos equals use loader data. And whatever the loader for that route loads goes into that variable. Easy peasy. Now I can start constructing this. Div, we're gonna have an h1 my to-dos. Then we'll iterate over that. So it'll be to-dos.map. Okay. And then we're going to say for each to-do, we're going to return a section tag. Okay. That has a... Actually, let's make this, let's wrap this in a UL. So let's put a UL here. So there's our UL. And instead of a section tag, we'll just generate an LI. And each LI will just have the to-do title. Okay, so we see that. There's the breakfast. But I want these to link to the show page. So import. Actually, I don't need to do it there. I can just do it right here. Link. Okay, and then each one will have a link tag around it that links to slash, and then we're going to add the ID. So it's going to be to-do.id. So it dynamically links to that particular to-dos show page. Now I'm going to take that closing link tag, put it right after the LI's closing tag. Okay, let me just save this so that way it auto formats it so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and there you go. So you see, I see breakfast as a link. Okay, but right now if I click there, I just get an empty string because I don't have anything for that show route yet. Okay, cool. But essentially, that so far is working good. Now, since we're on this page, let's also build out the form for this page. Because on this page, we're going to have a create form so you can add more to-dos. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first we have to say, hey, when you submit that form, I want it to submit to this create route. So I need to define an action to be associated with that create route. Okay, so I'm going to head over here. I am going to, again, import URL from /base URL. And then we're going to create export const. We'll call this a create action because that's what it's doing. It's creating. And it's going to equal an async function. But here I do want, I am going to want the request because I need to get the data from the form. Okay, when I get the data from the form, I'm going to want to go grab that form data from equals request.form data. Okay, good. Now we have the form data. We're going to create the new to-do. Const new to-do equals a new object with a property that's called title. That's going to equal form data.get title. And we're going to have a property called details that equals form data.get details. And again, that property, that's going to be defined when we define our form and we define the name property in our form tags. Okay, so we do have to create the forms a little bit manually. It's still going to be much easier than just raw React, but maybe not quite as easy as that, like using Django templating, where it generated pretty much the whole form for you. All we have to do is just like inject it in the middle of a form tag. If you saw the original intro to the Django video. But again, you get to use React. So again, if you wanted to use that pairing of Django and React, this kind of gives you an idea of how that looks like. Okay, so that creates the new to-do. Then we just have to go make the fetch. Okay, so await fetch, and we're going to send the fetch to the URL. And then we want to then put the details of the request. So the method should be post. Then we need to make sure we define our headers. Headers, because we need to pass the content type header so that way it knows the data we're going to send is JSON data. Okay, application JSON, that's going to be the value there. So it knows. Okay, that's the only header we need. And then we pass in the body, which is going to be json.stringify the new to-do. So we're going to turn that new to-do into a JSON string that we're going to send in our body, and then that should do it. And then the last thing we need to do is redirect the user back to the main page. So return redirect. So I'm going to import redirect from React router DOM. And then what I can do is just redirect them back to that main route. Okay. And then that's the create action. So now I can go back to index.js, not index, the index page, and all I have to do is import the form component from React router DOM. Okay, and now below the UL, I can say, hey, we'll just do an h2, create a to-do. Then we're going to inject a form element. Okay, in the form element, we have to submit, hey, where are you submitting this to? Which is going to be the /create route that we defined, which again is the one that triggers the action, which we actually haven't connected yet. And then again, the method has to be post or something other than get. Okay, because if it's get, then it won't trigger the action. But I do need to attach that action to that route. So I'm going to head back to my routes. I'm going to go import the create action. And then I can go to that create route and attach the action. And say, okay, hey, when this route is submitted to, run the create action. Okay, nice. Okay, easy peasy. Now if I go back to I just need to finish making the form. So we're going to add an input of type text. Okay, whose name is title. That's really all we need to define. Actually, I should make that self-closing. And then we'll just do that again for details. And then we have a submit button. So we'll just use a button tag because it's just quick. Create to do. Okay, and now I should be able to be like lunch, eat lunch, and this should work. And it does. Okay, it sent that initial request to make the lunch. It then redirected me back to the main page, which triggered the original loader who got the updated list, and just kept doing that over and over again. Okay, so it works. I can create to-dos. So now we just have to work on the show page. But when I go to the show page, it should load up an individual to-do. So I have to go back to my loaders. Okay, and I know there's a route for that because it's my API follows RESTful conventions. So I can create export const show loader. Okay, equals, I can pretty much copy this for the most part because it's going to be pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that now I wanted the structure params from the argument. Because essentially now what we're going to do is we're going to be requesting slash params.id, because again that's the param that we defined when we defined the route. Okay, and this is going to instead of be a single to do, so we should rename the variable to do to be semantic. Okay, and that's it. All we're doing is we're saying, hey, get me that individual to do, and now I can go attach that to the particular route. So here we have a loader equals show loader, but I gotta make sure it's imported, so I gotta go add it up here. Show loader. Okay, good. And then we define the component. So we're gonna import use loader data. Function show. Okay, and then we're gonna const to do. It's gonna equal that loader data because that's what the loader for show did. And now we can just render the to do for now. So return a section tag. We're gonna have an h1 with the to do.title. We're gonna have an h2 with the to do.details. Okay. And then let's have a link path back to slash. That takes you back to the main page. Okay. Back to main page. So that was always easy to get back. Okay. Then we'll export the function. And then we can connect that to our routes. So now when you hit the show route, the element it will render is going to be slash show. Okay, and then I just need to import the show route, or import the show component. There we go. Import show. Cool. So now if I click on breakfast, nope, didn't like that. Let's see here. There must be a extra token somewhere, probably in my show. Where do I have an extra token? Okay, let me just save it so it's more easily formatted. Okay. Use loader data. Oh, I see. That's a JSON error. So that means the request is not going right, and that's going to be probably because of a missing slash, more than likely. Show index actions loaders. Oh, I included the slash. So why doesn't it like? So let's go examine. Let's examine the request network. Let's refresh the page. There's the failed request. Okay. And it is saying that, oh, because I put too many slashes, because again, the slash is already included. So you see, this is why it's important to like examine under network. Because see, by looking at network, I can take a look at the request URL and I can say, hey, that's not the right URL. There's too many slashes there. So now I know I need to take away slash from here, because again, I already defined that original slash here in the base URL. Okay, so see, now it works. Okay, so again, don't always assume that your code is wrong. when you're working with API requests. Sometimes examining the failed request, you can discover whether you maybe interpolated something wrong to the URL, you have some extra characters. Oftentimes, you'll run into URL issues. Okay, and this network tab is going to help you diagnose those, make that a lot easier. Okay, so there we go. I can go back to the main page. Okay, just taking me back to the main page. So that this link is not working the way I want it to work. So let's go examine that. Show link path back to main page. Should take me back to slash. What if I just do that? That is not the expected behavior. It's that we have a link going to the right path. It's still linking me to /1. We'll let that go for a moment. Okay. But essentially, if I do go back to the main page, I can click on lunch, and lunch renders. So it does work. Okay, what we want now is we're going to want a form to update these things. Okay, so first I need to create an action so that way when you submit the form, it creates a thing. I can pretty much take the create action form because it's essentially the same steps, except now we're going to update. So we'll rename this to update action. And in this case, I am going to want to also destructure params from the argument. Again, how do I know those things are in there? Because I've read the documentation. Okay, it's not magic. Okay, that's all fine. That's all pretty much the same as it is. The only difference now is that we're going to want to do plus params.id slash, okay, and then there should be a put request. And technically this is not a new to do, it's an updated to do, so we want our variable names to be semantic. So we should keep it all semantic. And yeah, that should be good. And it'll redirect us back to the main page. Okay, and that's good. And again, it's already exported because I exported it right there. So all I have to do is connect it to the route. So now when we submit to this update route, so we'll see there's the param, I can do action equals update action. Then I just gotta make sure it's up. Yep, it's already imported for me. Good. Thank you, VS Code. So now I just have to create the form back in show. So I can go back over here, put like a little h2, update to do, create a form with an action that submits to slash update slash to do.id method equals post. Okay, and then I can just literally copy the same inputs as before because it's literally going to be the exact same. So I'll just copy that. The only differences are going to be is that now this should be update to do, and I'm going to want to set a default value on these, not value, default value, or if not, you're going to run into like a frozen form, and this should be like to do.title, and then this should have a default value of to do dot details. Okay, so now when I click on lunch, see the form is already pre-populated. I can go update lunch and say update to do, and see now it's lunch 2. Okay, I can go add a to do dinner, eat dinner. There we go. Okay, so see, it's all working. Okay. Now, generally, I'm probably going to want to be able to delete things. Okay. So we need to create one more action for deleting. So I'll just copy my previous action because, generally a lot of the code I'll need is already there. I'll call this one the delete action because that's what it's doing. All I really need here is params. I don't need the request. I don't need to use the form data, so all this can kind of go away. Okay, this is going to be a delete request now. And I don't need all this because we're not sending any data to the body. So that delete action becomes a lot simpler. Okay. And now all I have to do is connect it to the routes. So I connect it to my last route, action equals delete action. Then I gotta make sure I import that action. Good. And now I just gotta add one more form. So I want to head back to my show. I want to inject one more form whose action is going to be to submit to /delete /todo.id method post. And then this form is just going to be a button. Button delete. That's it. That's the whole form. It's just for submitting purposes. So now when I take a look, if I click on dinner, see now this is a delete button. If I click it, dinner's gone. I go to lunch, I delete lunch, lunch is gone. Okay, so we have full CRUD. Okay, now I can continue, add more models to my backend, maybe add authentication, do some more styling, make it pretty. But essentially, you have functionality, and essentially, like now you've seen sort of the basics of building an app in like less than a little bit over an hour. Okay, we're able to basically build front end and back end on this app using Django and React, because especially when you're using Django REST framework, it makes making an API a lot quicker. And when you're using React Router, the newest version of React Router, and those data APIs, it makes really building that React app a lot faster because you're not doing all these complex use effects and managing state. You're just saying, load this when this shows up, do that when that is submitted. And you think about it that way, and it's just a lot simpler on the mind. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this build and saw a little bit about like using React and Django together, and had some fun. I'll see y'all later. Have a great day and enjoy. In case I don't make any more videos before the new year, Happy New Year. Okay, I'll see you later.